What's up, guys? So we got new wheels and tires on Project X finally. Just going to be talking to you guys today about the wheel and tire setup, kind of what wheels we got with, what tires, how it's been. My dad's been driving this for about a month now on the street, and I'm just going to show you kind of how everything kind of works out with 33's, and this is on stock suspension, so no lift at all. And we're just going to be showing you guys kind of what's going on. All right, so for tires, went with the BF Goodrich KO2s, which I think these are just such an awesome looking tire. But the size on these are 33 by 10.5 by 15, so they're a little bit narrower. You can get a 12.5. I went with a 10.5. Just kind of wanted just a little bit more of a sporty look for this Jeep. This is my dad's daily driver, so a little bit sportier look was kind of what we were kind of going for. And so anyway, so it's a 10.5 inch tire. All right, so wheel specs. They're Rough Country Series 82 wheels. My buddy Joey actually found these online, and Dad loved them, so we ended up going with these. And the specs of the wheels, they're 15-inch wheels, 8-inch wide. The back spacing is 3.75 and minus 19 millimeter offset. That allows us to run the 33 10.5, and we don't rub lock to lock. So I can go full lock left and full lock right, and I don't rub on the control arm or on the sway bar up front, which is great. So basically, if you find any wheel that's 15 by 8, and then the back spacing is what you're going to need. So 3.75 works perfectly for this setup. No rubbing in the front whatsoever, which is great. And obviously the rear is totally fine. So obviously, if you guys are looking at some off-road rig, you're going to be rubbing up into the fender flares with the 33's without a lift. So, some light trail riding, this is going to be totally fine. And rubbing into plastic isn't that big of a deal. So keep that in mind. This is my dad's street Jeep, and I really like the way this looks. The rear looks great, and I think it just gives it a really nice, sporty look. So they're classified as a 33-inch tire, but the actual height of them is like 32.7 or 32.8, something like that. So not quite 33 is kind of how they do it, but I think it fits great. I think it looks really nice, and then it's got just enough tire poke where it's not ridiculous, but just enough where it definitely looks way more aggressive. And he loves the way it drives. So before we had the JK wheels, which were 17-inch wheels with a 32-inch tire basically. And with these 33s and the 15, the ride just smoothed out a ton. It's just way smoother. Having just all that sidewall just kind of absorbs the road bumps a lot better than, lower profile tire basically. So looks great. So one thing that I did have to do, obviously, with the 33, you have to raise the rear third brake light because you wouldn't be able to fit this on. So what I ended up doing, basically I spaced this up. So these have really long bolts that go down into the spare tire carrier, and I just spaced them out. So I have probably about a 2-inch spacer, I would say, maybe 1.5 inch, 2-inch spacer, and that bumped it up just perfectly. And I made it actually out of rubber. So I had some old exhaust hangers that I cut up and split in two, and then just used them as spacers. Then I had some metal spacers for the front. And then a neat trick I found on one of the forums. So with the tire, you're going to want it actually physically touching the tailgate, because you don't want this thing moving when you're hitting bumps and flexing on these hinges. So I actually added some tennis balls in between the stock bumpers. So eventually I'll probably get the bumper extender, so it's, we don't have a tennis ball in here, but this made it much tighter here, and then I added one right back there. And then I need to do something maybe about the bottom one. The bottom one needs something about that big. So eventually I'll get something for the bottom, but the rear tire does just slightly touch on the bottom, which is good on the bumper. So it kind of rides on the bumper. Any weight downward doesn't really go anywhere. So I'll eventually probably kind of fix that up just a little bit better. But for the time being, that just works great where it's not, just free hanging in there and gonna mess with the stock hinges. So for the future of the Jeep, the plastic flares on this thing are actually gray from the factory. It's kind of a weird option I really haven't seen too many of, but they're legitimately a gray color from the factory. So I'll pull those off and I'll probably bedline those and then put them on so they'll be like a nice textured black. And then we'll probably swap out the top to just like a factory best top black soft top. I thought Spice would look kind of cool, kind of switch it up a little bit, but I think he wants black. So we'll probably end up doing black just to kind of get rid of that. I'm not a huge fan of the gray. So I think going to the black fender flares and the black top will kind of spruce it up a little bit, make it look a little bit better. But yeah, that's pretty much how she works. But for driving around on the street, this thing has literally zero problems. No rubbing, anything like that. You can go lock to lock. You just got to make sure that your wheels have the proper offset and back spacing, rather, to accommodate the bigger tires so you don't rub when you're turning. So anyway, guys, thank you guys so much for watching the video. If you guys enjoyed it, give the video a thumbs up. That helps me out a bunch. Definitely consider subscribing if you're not subscribed already to get more videos on Project X, the future stuff we're going to be doing to it, and we'll catch you guys in the next video.